Okay, this should be fun. Synthetic drums. Meet a speaker for a bigger drum sound. And then wrapped into a handy Ableton device. Gnarly modulated synthesizer. Meets a speaker. For acid madness. Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to look at something that is interesting that you can do by yourself and you can use just about any microphone or any speaker. We're going to take synthetic drums and run them through a real speaker and record the results in a reverb chamber, also known as a bathroom. So to do this, I used this tiny guitar amp, which I actually got for a different project. And I'll probably make a video about that another time. Additionally, I've also taken the results and created a useful Ableton device, and I'll put a link to that below so you can use that in your own music. And if you do, please get in touch. I'd love to hear what you do. And also, if you like the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is the final device. This is our synthetic drums reamped. And even though it's a tiny speaker, the sound has come out quite large. So let's have a listen. Okay, so I'll make another video with detailed instructions on how the device works and how to install it, but it works in Live 10, Live 11 and Live 12, and it does not require a suite, and I'll put a link to it below. Okay, and so the steps to making it. How was this device built? How were the recordings done? What was the process? Here we go. Okay, so the first step, this was the easiest step. It involved loading DS kick and DS snare and also DS cymbal. So these are Max devices. They come with Ableton Suite and they're drum synthesizers, and I think they sound really nice. And they're really simple to tweak, so it's quite quick to make custom sounds with these. So that's what I did. I made some custom sounds. I recorded some session automation into the parts, created the short kicks and then long kicks, various snares. I'll let you hear these. Also some longer hats, opening the decay, and some shorter hats. I did not create many open hats because I thought the reverb time might be a bit too much, as in the reverb of the room, the chamber, the tile chamber room, but it actually sounded good. So short kicks, long kicks, snares, hats, and some synth parts, which I'll talk about later. Then importantly, once I'd recorded in my automation, I froze the tracks and I also bounced them in place. So freeze, and this one is frozen. You can see the blue here, it's all frozen. Bounce in place, and then you end up with a rendered file, which is what I sent out of the speaker. Okay, so before we continue with the next step, I thought I would talk about the equipment we will need. So required equipment. We're going to need some kind of computer. We're going to run audio out of that into an audio interface, from the audio interface across to our amp or our speaker. From the speaker, we're going to need our microphone, directional mic. It's going to go back into the audio interface. And then importantly, we'll need some closed headphones. We want them to be closed so that we can properly monitor the mic signal. Not listening to the room itself, but listening to what the microphone is picking up. And we're going to use these to really focus on mic position and also on the speaker position in the room, because all these variables will make a difference to what we pick up on the microphone. Okay, step 2, recording. So in this step, we're going to use our closed headphones to make decisions on speaker placement and also on mic placement. So the closer the speaker is to the corner of the room, the boomier it's going to be. So keep that in mind. And also the closer the mic is to the speaker, the boomier it's going to be. We'll get the proximity effect because it's a directional mic, which means it'll be a bit heavier in the bottom end. And then there's also a matter of whether or not it is off axis or on axis, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then listening to the room and making any changes that we can. So I had the door open so that the sound would be a bit less boxy because it is a very reverberant room. Okay, mic position, off axis or on axis. So one important thing to consider when doing this is the mic position. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So with a directional mic like this one, which is the one I used, which is a hypercardioid, which just means it's really directional, it's got a roll-off, a natural roll-off. So if you listen to my voice now, you'll hear that when I move the mic away from my voice, like this, I'm speaking the same. It naturally rolls off. It's almost like it is like an EQ essentially. So when you are miking things up, you can use this to your advantage. If you want something to be sharper with a directional mic, make sure it's facing the source directly. Whereas if you want to roll things off a little bit, You can put it slightly at an angle, so off axis. I did that with the snare drum in particular, and you can hear, so it was the exact same source, and you hear in one take it is much more on axis and sharper, and in the second take it is slightly off axis and it has a kind of rolled off, the highs are rolled off slightly. So step 3. Right, so I've got here our bounced audio, then our recorded audio for the kicks, down here for the snares, take 1, take 2, again, source material, and also the hats. Now let's focus on the snares. So take 1, take 2. Take 1 is off axis, is a lot more muted, and take 2 was on axis, so much sharper. Otherwise they're identical. Same source material, same processing down here, which I'll talk about. Just a few degrees difference with the mic position, and it makes a big difference. Let's have a listen. So take 2 is much snappier overall. Right, so what I did was, first thing to do is once we've recorded our amplified material, our amplified signal, is to phase align it. We have to get these as closely aligned as possible. And the reason why this nice diagram from Mastering the Mix shows us this signal's in phase, 2 perfectly aligned waves. These are out of phase. We're going to get a kind of hollow, whooshy kind of sound. And these 2 are completely out of phase. They will completely cancel each other out. There will be no audio. So we're trying to get these as coherent as possible in terms of phase so that they are nice and strong together. So I did that. I did that manually. I tried some plugins, but found it easier with these drum parts to do it manually. So that's it. Get them phase aligned, get in there, get a marker, find a spot where you think you can line them up, and then get them sounding as good as possible. Here I reverse the phase using the utility device. Okay, so let's talk about the processing. So here we go. This is take 2 of the snare, which is the snappier take. So with the processing, I'll turn it all off. So it is just jumps out of the speaker with this processing. So let's talk about what is going on here. So the gate is to really tame the tail a bit. It's subtle, but it's going to make a difference, especially once we add all the other processes. Shaper box is then also doing something, well, it's more about the transients, getting the transients through and then kind of taming the body a bit. We can hear it's really quite obvious here. We've got drive and volume, similar kind of envelopes, and then we've got it in audio mode like an envelope follower, so it's reacting to the audio. We can really hear what it's doing, but saturator is going to bring it all back together. So it's quite long without shaper box, kind of snappier, but still snappier, and a bit shorter, but still very present. And then SPL Transient Designer, really turning up the attack a bit, sustained down again a bit, in parallel, so not super obvious. Okay, and then finally, this Neve emulation, a Lindell modeling of a Neve channel strip, so cranking the preamp a bit, turning up the harmonic distortion a bit. We've got some a little bit EQ, some pretty gnarly compression, but in parallel, and then some more gating. So gated twice. So again, it's really all about making it pop out of the speaker and having some texture and presence, but taming it as well. So here it is with and without. Okay, so with processing, without. Okay, so now we've got our processed and textured takes, and they're really popping out of the speaker, which is nice. It was a matter of layering it with the original source material. So we get some body from the original, and the snap and texture and the space of the room from the recorded take. And then it was a matter of doing the same thing for the various kicks, short kicks, long kicks, take one of the snare, take two, and the hi-hats. So bouncing them as one, and then re-importing the results and chopping them to a new MIDI track. So making sure warp is on over here, and then slice to new MIDI track, choose transient, so all these markers here will become new slices, and then you have the results on a drum track. I talked about that in my first video, sampling the world around us, part 1. So I go into more detail on that. Yeah. And then I also did a little bit of amplified synth just for out of curiosity. So I'll talk about that next. Okay, so as I was saying, I also created a synth patch to run through the speaker and into the space, just out of curiosity to hear what it sounded like. So this was the patch. So I wanted something with some modulation because I thought that would be interesting as it was tearing through the space and through the speaker. If we look up here in the right-hand corner, it's quite squared off, and that is really due to overdriving it into the amp stage. And then the tearing is coming through syncing the second oscillator here, syncing it to the first oscillator, and I've also added some extra modulation to that. Just for, because I liked it. I wanted the tearing effect. Okay. So, then I've got a simple riff here. So a simple riff in C. I did it in C so that it would be easy to throw it into a sampler later and keep it in tune. And then running it through the speaker, which sounds like this. So this is the original here. Here it is panned, so duplicated and panned to left and right. So here it is layered. What I did was I took those three and bounced them as one. If we listen to it, so this is the original bounced audio as I froze it, then flattened it, or bounced to place. And these two are duplicates So let's have a listen to one of them. So you can really hear it in the space through the speaker and bouncing off the tiles. So I bounced that and then I re-imported it. And it all comes together very nicely. Which I think sounds pretty sweet. So I took these three and bounced them as one layer, and then I imported the lead into a piece which has all the amplified drums as well, playing the rhythm part, and created this kind of acidic or industrial acidic techno piece, which sounds like this. Okay, I'm going to end this video here. It's taken me ages to make it, so I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you've learned something from it. And if you have a friend that might be interested, please share it. So the process is not too complicated. It just takes a bit of setting up. It takes a bit of setting up, and then it adds a sense of realism and depth and texture to any synthetic sound. And all you really need to do is keep in mind the mic position and also phase alignment in post-production to keep things nice and coherent. And don't think that just because the speaker is tiny that the sound will be tiny in the end, because you'll be layering it with the original and the reverb of the space will be adding to the sound. So it will probably come out bigger than you expect. Also, proximity effect could make a difference. Mic position. You might even find that using a bigger speaker just creates more problems because of boominess, maybe. But anyway, it's definitely something that's worth trying. It's not too complicated. It just takes a bit of setting up. Okay, I think I've said everything I wanted to. There's links to the device below. I've made another video going through installation and the sounds of the device. And until next time, look after yourselves and get in touch if you have any questions or comments. And I will see you then. Ciao!